Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, where today we have not one, but two stocks that are up 100%. And these aren't penny stocks, my friend. You want to know what they are? Come on in. You're welcome to the Rebel's Edge. Bam. Almost forgot this, Pete.
Here we go. We got some fun stuff to talk about today, man. We need to get going right away. I think we got some. I mean, when you got two stocks, not one, but two going up 100%, I'd say that's a pretty decent day.
Yeah. And they're both billion-dollar stocks.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. Anyway, folks, welcome back to the Rebel's Edge. He's Pete Najarian. I'm Jon Najarian. We always start off with macro, and today I'm going to say mortgage rates have decreased even further, Pete. Fixed rate mortgages dropping to their lowest level since September 2024, 6.34%. And this trend follows, of course, the Federal Reserve when they cut Fed funds rate by an expected margin. I think they're going to cut it at least twice more, Pete, no matter what Austin Goolsbee said or Jerome Powell. And I've got more to say about Jerome Powell in the Fantastic Futures.
We were going to tease a little bit about with his voice, John, and he's trying to figure out how much they're going to cut and whether they should or shouldn't. It's like, hey, Goolsbee, just freaking get out of here, man. I mean, the guy is Mr. Wet Blanket. But anyway, I would say this about the macro. AI is gold, baby. Gold, Jerry. Gold, I tell you. Gold. It's absolutely been amazing, John. Yesterday, it was all about NVIDIA. Today, you get Ababa. And AI just seems to dominate the conversation that we're hitting in just about everything about the market, right? I mean, whether it's, you look at all these data centers, you look at all these various things that are out there. And a lot of it is somehow AI is a part of just about everything. And because of that, I'm throwing that as my macro today because it's definitely a huge influence on the markets.
Well, Open Door, Pete, OPEN, HOUS, SoundHound, SOUN. I mean, these are all companies that people probably wouldn't have picked them for being the AI darlings that they have become. Now, they've got to fulfill some of that promise, but I think there's a lot to be said for these stocks. And obviously, when OpenAI is getting $500 billion, and when we're building data centers, Pete, that are as big as small cities, I think this is something that's not just a flash in the pan.
Right.
When Elon Musk buys 100,000 NVIDIA chips,
wonder what he's up to.
All right. Well, so as far as Jerome Powell, Pete, on Fantastic Futures, obviously it influences the market when he talks about the market. I'll go a little long on this piece just for this reason, Pete. 4 Fed chairmen have talked about stocks, even though it's not in their purview at all. Inflation, okay, and full employment, second thing. Well, where is stocks and the market in there? It's not, nor should it be, but Greenspan, Bernanke, Yellen, and now Powell have all talked about it. Okay, so in other words, modern day Fed chairs are going to do that. I get it. What's their track record? 50%. And as I said on Fox yesterday, Pete, 50% as a baseball player gets you into the Hall of Fame and has statues built for you. They probably rename the Hall of Fame the Pete Najarian Hall of Fame if you're hitting 500. But on Wall Street, not so much. And they are wrong by up to 2 years, Pete, when they make these predictions. Remember irrational exuberance? Did the market just go straight down from there? No, it kept going up. 2 years later, I mean, I could say right now, 2 years from now, I think maybe aliens are going to land and hopefully kidnap a bunch of idiots or whatever. Well, there's a chance, a less than 0% chance that could happen. So if the Fed wants to say, well, the stocks are getting kind of pricey here, first of all, you're a lawyer who happens to have been with a private equity firm, Mr. Powell. You are not a trader. If you guys collectively want to follow a private equity guy's picks day to day in the stock market, you will lose. I guarantee you will lose. They're smart people, but they are not traders. They've got a 5 to 7 year time frame when they're buying and selling things. So does Jerome Powell, I tell you what, all day long, Pete, I'd put up a big chunk of my net worth to trade against Jerome Powell every single day. And I bet you would too, because he's a very smart man and he's very connected. We all know that, but he is not a trader. So if you want to follow what a guy who is not a trader says about valuations and things, he might be as much as 2 years early. And if you want to try shorting or getting out of the market and watching it keep going, remember, sell in May and go away. Anyway, that's my rambling rant today.
I like it. That was a good one. You know, I was looking at the volatility index, John, and we talk about the 15, 16s. That's where we've been pressing. We've been sort of teasing up towards 17, yeah, right? I mean, we got over 17 yesterday. We pushed up a little bit today, and then we kind of pulled back. But I still think it's very important to understand that we did have some VIX call buying, and it was pretty massive. And they were going out in time a little bit. So it's not like they were thinking, hey, it's going to be something that's going to happen really soon. But they are going out to November with this thing. So there's a little bit of room out there. But they bought that 16.25 call spread, John. So you know, you're looking at a pretty nice size spread. It cost $2.50 for the spread that they put on 60,000 times in the VIX. And it starts with the 16s, which is where we are. So if this thing starts to see anything where we see the volatility index really start to stroke and get up and closer to 20 and all the rest of it, John, that's already in the money by $4 on that $2.50 spread. So that's just the numbers themselves, taking everything else out. So I think it'll be very, very interesting to keep an eye on this VIX because it's kind of popping and pulls back a little bit, kind of popping. I just think that people definitely need to have that on their radar right now, more so than ever. And it's going to be interesting. And that was not the only VIX trade we had. That's just one of a couple of giant trades that we'd seen.
True. Very true, Pete. Well, now we get to talk about, I guess I misspoke, Pete, when I said we have two stocks up 100%. We have one stock that's up 100% and a second stock that I'm about to talk about now that's up 200%. Because UniQure, I don't know how to pronounce the name, of course. It's
UniQure.
QURE.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, QURE. Yeah, that's it. It's up 220% right now as we sit here, Pete. 9 million shares short. You think these guys are hurting just a little bit, Pete, with the 9 million shares short? Or what about the fact that they have a perhaps cure for an uncurable disease, a neurodegenerative disease known as Huntington's disease? And they might have the cure, Pete. According to what they reported last night, they are that close to having the cure. So no wonder it's up 220%.
Right. It's absolutely incredible, John. I mean, we haven't seen something like this in a really, really long time. I mean, this goes back to our Garon days, if you remember that stock that we had.
Yep.
Went from $12 to, I think, 100 or something crazy like that. So, but this is interesting. I mean, you know, it's unbelievable. And then when you look at the shorts, like you said, that number, it is a 16% of the stock out there is shorted. So the fact that last I'd looked at it was over $42 a share. I'm sure it's even higher than that now since it's up over 200%. But this is a company that's already got one out there, one drug out there for hemophilia. But this is a big deal because, like you said, there is no cure for Huntington's disease. So if they can get this thing approved, it's not there yet, but it's getting closer. But if they can get this approved, this could be extremely meaningful. And I would also point out, there's a good chance that somebody out there might take a peek at these guys, John. You know, the Lillys of the world, the Pfizers of the world, whomever it might be, somebody who's got some pretty decent capital. But if they're as convinced as what we're seeing the reaction today, this could be something that we might see it up even a little bit further, quite frankly, because they do have a pretty decent pipeline right now as well. They have 5 other drugs along the way in the very early stages to the mid stages in terms of what they've got in the pipeline. So they've already got one that's crossed over and gotten itself approved. But if they get this one approved, they might want to buy before they get approved is what I would say. So keep an eye on this name, Unicure.
Well, Pete, the average turnover is 1 million shares a day. So far today, 37 million shares. And
Crazy.
I guarantee a lot of those are folks on the short side because, like I said, it's at least 9 million shorts or about 18% of the float. So this ain't a good day for you. A little squeeze. A little squeeze. All right, let's talk about Lithium America because this one is also up 100%. So Albemarle, Lithium Argentina, Sigma Lithium, and SQM are all in focus today because the Trump administration is seeking an equity stake in Lithium America. Now, I know the name says America, but as Pete says, it's sort of like North America because it's a Canadian company. But the president says he wants a stake in them, Pete. And so the shares, boom, to the upside. Just a phenomenal. And as usual, we had some unusual activity, Pete. The unusual activity in this one, take a look at that. That was when it was $5.73. It is significantly higher right now. And those calls, well, a 35-cent investment. If you bought 50 calls for 35 cents, you have to multiply everything times 100, folks. It's a $1,700 investment, okay? $1,700 turns into 13,000, turns into a pure profit of over 11,900, a profit from the 1,700 investment, folks. So if you want some trades like that, you know what we're going to do. We're going to direct Jared to put up that. You should subscribe. You should be one of the folks that is on unusual option activity because we find these needles in a haystack all the time. And in this case, it's only up almost 700% in 8 days.
It really is amazing. I mean, there's not a whole lot you could say other than the fact that with the president and the interest that they have, they want a 10% stake. We've already talked about, you know, some of the previous investments, so to speak, or whatever. But the fact that this thing bounced all the way up north of 6.25, John, the average volume is 8.7 million in a day. Well, 90 minutes into the day, they had 170 million turnover, and I'm sure it's incredible. It's even more now. But this is an interesting company. We've talked about this company on many times because of the need for lithium and all the rest of it. So this isn't a completely foreign company from that perspective. But I'll tell you what, with the president's backing and all the rest of it, this thing is absolutely on fire to the upside as well. Absolutely an incredible move. And we don't see these that often, folks, but to see two in a day that are triple-digit winners, one of them 200%, I would say that so far today is not such a bad day.
Nope. It's a great day for trading and a great day to own options, folks. Again, grab that QR code, check out the education, the coaching, the mentoring, as well as subscriptions. Because if you want to trade like us, we can help you do just that.
Right.
All right. Freeport McMoRan, Pete, FCX, down 11%. They guide Q3 consolidated sales to come in lower by 4% for copper and 6% for gold. And sadly, there's a reason behind it, and that is that one of their mines had a large flow of wet material that trapped a bunch of miners down there. And you can imagine that there were some fatalities and there are still some lost people. And they didn't get production, of course, during those days. I'm a capitalist, but of course, I'm a humanist as well, Pete. So, you know, the fact that people are dying in some of these mines, I'm not just dismissing that and saying, oh, well, you know, that really hurt their bottom line. But of course it did hurt their bottom line as well, because they couldn't mine during those days or weeks afterwards. So they're not going to meet their goals, right?
Yep. They halted their mining, as you said, early part of September. As a matter of fact, it still goes on. They still are encouraged that possibility that there could be 5 that hopefully have survived, as you were saying, John, 2 that have not. But you know, that part's an absolute terrible part of the story for sure. But from the business perspective, which is where we're coming from on this thing, they lost smelters. They obviously lost some of the folks that are working there. They had to halt this whole thing. They had to pull back. They had to readjust some of their guidance because of all of that for Q3. To your point, it's going to affect gold. It's going to affect the copper and so forth. So from that perspective, that's why it's down 10% today. But like you said, being a human and all the rest, you have to have some sort of sadness because of why this is happening. But you know what? You forge on, you get past these things. It's awful. It's terrible. And that's the reason it's down today. Well, does that mean it's a possibility that it might be a point where you might have interest from a stock perspective, not a human perspective, but a stock? Yeah, because they will get this thing going again at some point. It's just a matter of when. So I think that's from a trader standpoint, that's something I think that you might be curious about to take a look. And we did have some unusual option activity today in this name, looking for an upside move.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of a recovery.
Yeah.
So, you know, just like Pete said, from the standpoint of having empathy for the miners, when you look at an 11% drop for something that you know is in huge demand, gold right now, as well as copper, you got to think that 11% drop is tempting to some people, probably a lot of hedge funds in particular, Pete.
Yep.
All right, one last one, Worthington Industries.
Yeah.
This one, yeah, these guys beat Pete because one of their divisions, basically their cooking, heating, cooling, and water solutions division, their building division, if you will, rather than consumer products, that really beat Wall Street forecasts. But nonetheless, weaker cash flow and higher expenses from the likes of acquisitions and facility upgrades. Now, I'll focus on the latter part of that, Pete, facility upgrades. That usually means things are going to be more efficient going forward. So maybe people take a look at this one the same way we just talked about Freeport, Pete, and say that, man, down 15, 16%, maybe, you know, a bad day or two, but maybe I should be looking at charts and figuring out where should I make an entry here.
Well, I completely agree with you, John. And just so people know, when the two of us do this, we never talk to each other about the stocks. We never talk about fantastic futures. We never talk about macro, because it's interesting to see what the take is from each one of us alone. And I would say everything you just said is exactly what I was thinking, John. I mean, when you look at the net sales, they're up 18%. You look at the net income, it's up 45%. They beat on the earnings. Across the board, you see a lot of great numbers. Now, they did have some issues, as you said. They had a weaker cash flow and so forth, and so people turn and burn, and they just decide to sell some. And down 15%, the stock is still up 27% year to date. It's been on a pretty good run. With all that being said, and the momentum that I think that they potentially could have into the future, I want to look at this one a lot closer too, for a variety of reasons. First of all, there's nobody out there shorting this stock, at least so far. We're talking about basically 1% or less, which is pretty much nothing. But I look at this thing and it's trading at a 16 PE as well, John. So that seems like a pretty appetizing PE. That's an opportunity, I think, because of what we're seeing. I like the opportunity that this is giving people if they choose to see it the way that you and I are seeing it right now, which is bullish, because it certainly does seem that way. They had a couple of issues that went on, and that's why this thing's getting sold off. But I think that's something of the investment in the future type things. And because of that, I'm okay with what they did. You know, acquisitions take a little bit of time and take some money to do. But you know what? Going forward, that means that they're going to be that much more stronger. So that's why I like this stock a lot, and trying to figure out if that's something I want to put in the portfolio.
Well, so there you have it, folks. We broke down 4 stocks for you. We do that every day. And then we dive into sports, because one of us played 6 years in the NFL and was a #1 pick in the World League, and then won a world championship with the World League. So that particular gentleman, Pete, likes to talk about sports, and I like to tag along. Let's take a look at a quick video, Pete, because we know everybody loves these videos, according to all the likes that happen when we put them out. So let's listen to this guy about a little something going on with a guy that you know, because he used to be a ball boy with the Vikings when Pete was playing there. This is Lane Kiffin. So let's give this a listen.
This right here is peak college football drama.
This
at
kid
its
bigs it
finest.
up
Now, let
so
me set
well,
the scene
John.
for you,
He
'cause
really,
this is
by the
crazy.
way,
This is Ole Miss
Lane's
coach Lane
daughter's
Kiffin.
beautiful
This coming
girl, right?
Saturday,
I
his
mean,
14th-ranked Rebels are about to play in a
he's a
huge
handsome,
rivalry game
makes
against
sense.
4th-ranked LSU. And both teams
So
are
they're playing
4-0. So I don't
LSU,
need to
right,
tell
Pete?
you, this is
Ole
a
Miss.
huge game. Now,
LSU.
this
Yeah.
is crazy.
Everybody wanted to fire.
LSU is fourth.
And she is
And everybody
creating some
wanted to
serious
fire,
drama going
Brian
into this
Kelly.
game.
Oh, this
You're
guy
probably
needs to go.
asking,
And
did
so
she get in
far, he's
trouble
done
at
pretty
school?
well, I
Or
would
even
say.
worse,
So
do something illegal. But it's actually
this will be a good
neither of
game.
those. She
Good
did
matchup.
something far more diabolical. For
She
several
did
months, she's
something far more
apparently been dating this man.
diabolical.
There's the
LSU star
linebacker. He
linebacker
is a
Whit Weeks,
badass,
but no
John.
one
That
knew
guy's
about
as
it.
good a
And here's the best
linebacker as I've
part.
seen.
Instead of
Jack
keeping
Campbell,
it
the kid from
low-key,
Iowa who
knowing
plays
that
for
her own
Detroit now,
dad's team is about to
that's a
face off
comparison
against him,
because
she
big,
hard
strong,
posted a
athletic, and
relationship
everything.
on
That
her
part of it,
Instagram
absolutely
just
unbelievable.
4
But look,
days before the game.
look at him with his daughter, proud as a, and yet she's out there. She's dating the enemy, right? This LSU linebacker who's damn good. But what the hell is she thinking, John?
Well, and I'm guessing, Pete, she must go to LSU, right? I mean, they're not, I mean, either that or she's not in school at all or something. Do you think she's in Ole Miss and she's dating a linebacker at LSU?
You know what? I didn't look into it. I don't know, but I still just look at it just going, Lane's got to be sitting there going, really? This is what you're doing? Like this guy said, diabolical.
That is, it's diabolical.
Oh, that's great.
Well, it'll be interesting. And by the way, folks, that's one of the best games this coming weekend.
Oh, yeah.
But before we move on to the next category, as we're moving to it, I will say that Pete has called this move a long time ago. And man, college coach is on the hot seat, Pete.
Yep.
Mike Gundy, wow, that was a shocker that it happened like 10 minutes after the show was over. So whoever's on the board at Oklahoma State must be watching the show.
That timing was unbelievable. I mean, we just came in with the idea of, hey, two guys have already been fired. Seems kind of weird because it's so early in the season, but you and I came up with basically another 9 or 10 guys who could potentially get fired, the top of the list being Gundy, right? I mean, you know what? Dabo's got some issues at Clemson. There's no doubt about it, John. And there's a few others out there. Billy Napier is another one. But when you look at this one with Oklahoma State, John, he's been there for 21 years as the coach. And I think what I saw was that he's had 2 years where he's been under 500. Otherwise, he's been 500 or better as the coach. But what really hurt this poor son of a gun, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, you can't give up 60 points or 70 points, whatever Oregon slammed them with. That wasn't so good, right?
69-3.
Oh, God. That's hard to come back from. But you know what? You got to bounce back when you play somebody who's considered lower than you. And we talked about this yesterday. You talked about the team itself playing in that division with Tulane and all. But Tulsa plays
double-digit favorites over Tulsa, and they lose.
And they lose the game. I mean, you know what? Was he losing the team? Maybe. I mean, it's a possibility because this is a different world. In the last 3 or 4 years, the world of college football is not what it was for the previous 100. I mean, the fact that they're no longer, athletes that are just playing with the scholarship. These guys are getting all this NIL money. They can go in the portal, all this kind of crazy stuff. But I wanted to add on to that. So we were definitely right on that one, John. But I want to add on to that. Okay, who's next? I'm going to say Billy Napier. And I think they're just going to take what they've just seen happen already with UCLA, Virginia Tech, and now Oklahoma State. But Billy Napier at Florida, John. So they beat their big win of the year was against Long Island. Now, you and I, have you ever heard of that as a school to play football against? We know where Long Island is, but I mean, past that, John, I don't even know what division of football they play, but they beat the hell out of them, 55-0, so good for them. But since then, they've had nothing but problems, John. And I think Miami is the most undisciplined team right now in football, which is why I think there's a good chance that this poor guy gets fired. And, when you look at his quarterback, John, he's got more interceptions than he has touchdowns. That's never a good sign. He's already he had the LSU game, he threw 5 interceptions in the game. I mean, the rest of the team was playing pretty well, actually. They were going back and forth a little bit. But eventually, you know, when you throw 5 interceptions, you're giving up too much to possibly win the game. By the way, their next games, Texas A&M. They've got an easier one with Mississippi State, maybe. And then that to finish off that little, you know, gauntlet of schools with Georgia. So that if you think their record looks bad now, I can't see possibly how they could beat Texas or A&M. Mississippi State is maybe even a stretch. And then you've got Georgia. So whether they get rid of them now or get rid of them in a month, I don't know what they'd be waiting for, John, because I can't see it. What do you think about this whole thing? I mean, we were definitely balls on who and how many guys that are probably on that, you know, hot seat that's getting hotter. What do you think about this one?
Well, we said he was 95 degrees yesterday on a scale of 100, Pete. So it turned out we were exactly right.
Yep.
I think, you know, he'd been there 20 years. They made him give back $1 million of his contract to stick around for another year. In other words, they said, we didn't get what we deserved out of you last year, so you've got to give us $1 million. And he did. And as soon as you do that, that's like a dog rolling over on its back and, you know, putting its paws up so you can, you know, he's basically showing you his tummy. They're going to have to pay, in Florida's case, Pete, Billy Napier, $22 million to get rid of him because the buyouts are incredible. When you sign a coach up, folks, for 5 years, 7 years, which a lot of these schools are doing right now, and it's a $7 million contract, which again, a lot of these guys, I hate to say it, but I'm not exactly going to be crying in my soup over getting fired and getting a $22 million payout, Pete, and he'll still end up somewhere. Yeah. So he'd get $22 million bucks. And as soon as he gets that, he can't sign anywhere until he gets that. But as soon as he gets that and they cut him loose, boom, all of a sudden he's your offensive coordinator for Deion Sanders, Colorado, or wherever, or, you know, or he takes over for Debo, who gets cut sometime between now and 3 weeks from now. And I'm not rooting for any of these guys to lose their job. No. I know when that happens, folks. For those of you who don't understand it as much as Pete and I do, it's not just him. You're uprooting him and his family, true. You're uprooting a lot of assistant coaches and their families as well. Yep. So when these guys get these big contracts, just like when NFL linebackers and defensive backs and quarterbacks get the money, there's a reason they're getting paid so big. Yep. In some cases, it's a mistake to pay them as big as they did, but there's a lot of risks. You're not going to, you know, you're going to have to sell your house in Gainesville or rent it. And who wants to do that? And move on to some other place, maybe in a city that's, you know, like Oklahoma State. But anyway, I'll let you go on with the next one, Pete.
That's in Stillwater, by the way, ironically enough. Turnovers, the penalties and all that, John. I mean, they're the most undisciplined team at Florida that they could be, basically. It's just terrible. So here, I wanted to have something kind of fun in the NFL. So early in the year, I said, I think Jim Harbaugh might be the best coach ever. And I'm sure people say, well, there's no way, Pete, you know, this. Well, when you look back at his career, John, and how he did starting out down there in San Diego, University of San Diego, not San Diego State, University of San Diego at that level, he had success. He had success at Stanford. He had success with the 49ers. He had success with Michigan. And now it seems like he's doing pretty good, I would say. I mean, they're 3-0 right now, John, which is really early. But I think this guy, the magic is starting to get sprinkled around a little bit. They got a great offensive line. They got a good enough running game. And then you've got Justin Herbert, who's probably as good a quarterback as anybody. He just needed the right coach, and I think Harbaugh's the right guy. So he's got 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, and he's 67% completion rate. Why is it so high? Because people have to stop the run first. And he's got 2 big running backs who can do a pretty good job for him. One they drafted, one they signed in free agency. So what have they beaten? It's not like they've beaten the little sisters of the poor, John. They beat the Chiefs in game 1. You know, the Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Raiders, who are a much improved Raiders team with Pete Carroll, they really are. And the quarterback is showing everybody that he can still play at his age. So they beat the Raiders. And then a lot of people talked about Denver and the leap that they might take this year, John. They already looked good last year, but the leap that they could make, and they beat Denver. So they're 3-0 right now. And I just find that to be amazing because they could go on a little bit of a run, and it could be pretty special of what they could do this year. I'm not saying that they're going to be the best team in the AFC and all that, because I still look at Baltimore, I still look at Buffalo and those guys. But what do you think about the 3-0 start so far? Do you think that they look like a playoff team already? Because I kind of feel like they do.
Well, they've beat the right people, Pete. They're putting up the good stats, both sides, offense and defense, because you don't beat those teams that Pete just talked about, folks, letting the other team score 35.
Right.
You beat them because your defense is playing good defense, getting you the ball back, and so forth, and keeping the other team off the field, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So the offense is doing that with that grinding running style that both Harbaugh brothers are famous for.
Yeah.
They've had good quarterbacks, but for instance, yesterday we talked about Trent Dilfer being on the hot seat. He still has a Super Bowl ring from when he was the quarterback for Baltimore, right, Pete?
Yeah,
And
not so bad.
I don't know how many. I think you could count the number of passes he threw that year on one hand. I'm kidding, of course. I'm kidding, folks. But, he was a great quarterback in college, came out and went to a team where he didn't have to do that because they're just going to ram the ball down your throat. That's what Harbaugh did at Stanford. That's what he did with the Niners and took him to the Super Bowl against his brother, lost, but got him to the Super Bowl. And then, like you said, Pete, national championship at Michigan, and now he's back out here. So I'd like to see or hear from somebody that thinks Pete's wrong and that this might not be the best coach overall in football right now, because I think the evidence is to the contrary. He is the best.
There are some haters out there who've reached out already. That's okay. I appreciate them reaching out. John, real quick, I'll just do this one. So what team hasn't gotten a win yet this year who could be still a playoff team, because they're 0-3 already, which is, a tough spot to dig out from. But I look at the Houston Texans. That's the team I like. They're 0-3. I think the quarterback Stroud is great. He's got to calm down a little bit. His offensive line has to help him out the way they did the previous, last year. They looked great and the team looked great. They got a solid running game. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They don't get a lot of penalties. Their defense is really good. Their struggle is their offense. Their defense can really play some great football, but they have had some penalties. They have had some turnovers, and those are what kill you, right? I mean, that's what we were talking about. If you can avoid that as much as possible, you're probably going to have a great opportunity to win some games. I like them because of the defense as the fortress that they are, but specifically, Stroud's just started off a little cold. I think he needs to warm up, but whatever they need to do, I think they can still do it and get into the playoffs possibly.
Well, let's see here, Pete. I wouldn't disagree that Houston, of all the teams in Texas, Houston is probably better than the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys are 1-2, Pete. Mm-hmm. That Cowboy team looked terrible against the Bears. And maybe that's because the Bears made them look bad, and they did. But, man, I think you're right. As far as a team that could turn it around, I think that team could turn it around quicker than most of these other teams could that are not doing so well. I'm happy for my Bears that at least they've notched up a victory finally, and they're 1-2, and they're the ones that stuck it to the Cowboys, 34-10 or whatever, 31-14.
The Bears are pretty loaded up, John. I really believe that. I'm not just saying that because you played for them or whatever. I think that they have a lot of pieces of the puzzle. Do they have them all? Probably not, but they got a lot. They've done great in free agency. They've really done well in the draft. Quarterback who's just 1 year in, and now still playing and at times at a high level. So I think that there's and a good coach that you picked up from Detroit. So you can put all those things together. I like what the Bears look like. Even though at 1-2, they got a shot. They could get on a little bit of a run because they have a lot of talent. And if they can get a little bit more, swag to them, they could get on a run. I think they'd be fun to watch. And I think same thing with Houston. Houston just has to cut back on some of the problems they've had on offense, and they can't turn over the ball. But when you've got a defense that good, it's like Cleveland. When your defense is really good, you have a shot in every game. You just got to get that offense to figure out how to get the ball on the other side of the field into the end zone.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate all you tuning in, folks. Remember, scan the QR code. If you need a little help with education, we've got it. If you need more of a group lesson, we would call that coaching. If you need a mentor, in other words, one-on-one coaching, we've got that as well. And we've got subscriptions to everything from short squeezes to unusual activity to the Rebel Pit and so forth. And it's all right there on marketrebellion.com/get started. And we will get started again with another Rebel's Edge tomorrow, right, Pete?
Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, baby.
Bang.